Hi guys, welcome back. So today I've got another tutorial for you. We're going to be creating this memo board. You can see we can create new memos. So hello, come out, and then we refresh. It's all persisted to local storage as well. We can resize our memos. We can move them around on the screen. We can delete, and we can just create new ones like so. So there you go. It's a cool little project. It's good to learn, kind of DOM manipulation. We're also going to be using the canvas just to create this kind of dotted background you see. But I hope you enjoy, guys, and let's get going. Thanks. Right, so to get started here, guys, I've just got an index.html file, a style.css file, and an app.js file. I'm also using this kind of font I've just found online called Advanced Pixel. Use whatever font you want. It could be Google Fonts, but I kind of like this font for this project. Okay, so first we're going to do, let's just get our HTML up and running. So we'll come to our index.html file. We'll do an emit here. And then I'm just going to come to the title. We'll just say memo board. And then I'm going to link to the style.css in the header, like so. And then in the body, we'll just do script source to the app.js file. Okay, and then let's open this in live server. We're not going to see any changes for now because we're going to be kind of adding all of our content with JavaScript really. So in the body, I'm just going to have a main element. And then in this main element, we're going to have a canvas. This canvas is just going to be used for kind of decorative purposes. We're going to just add that kind of subtle dotted background. Makes this look quite cool, I think. And then we're going to have a section in this main element. We're going to give this a class of board. Okay, this is going to be the area where we're going to append all of our kind of memos to. And then we're also, within this board, going to have a div of a class of selection. And this is going to be when we kind of click and drag on the board, we're going to have that kind of highlighted selection area, which is going to be where we're going to place our memo. Okay, and that's pretty much it for our HTML. So there's not a lot there at all. Let's move to our style.css now. So in the style.css, the first thing I want to do here is I'm just going to initialize some CSS variables. Okay, so to do that, use the root here, and then we initialize our variables here. So I'm just going to call the first one main BG color for background. Okay, and then I'm going to give this just a dark grey, so 131313, like so. And then I'm going to have a border color. It's just kind of standard just to add these two hyphens before our names of our CSS variables. Okay, so this border color, I'm going to go for a really light kind of lime green. So we'll just say BB F706, and then I'm going to, for the third one, I'm just going to have memo BG color, and this is going to be a version of that. So I'll just copy this, but we're just going to make this make it a bit opaque basically. So we'll say 629. That just makes it slightly transparent. Okay, so that's it for our CSS variables. Next thing we want to do here, let's just be 6, like so. Okay, next thing we want to do here is I'm just going to set the font. So I'm just going to say font face. And here I'm just going to set the font to be called Pixel. And I'm going to set the URL to that Pixel WAF2 file. And then we need to specify the format as well, which is WAF2, like so. Okay, next let's do our global settings. So I'll just say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing of border box, and we'll just say font family. That's going to be Pixel. Cool. Okay, and then underneath this, I'm just going to set the HTML and the body, and I'm just going to say width 100%, height 100 viewport heights, and then we'll just give this a background color. And I'm just going to use the variable to see it, do var, the keyword, and I'm just going to do the main BG color. And you can see now our background has gone grey. So that's cool. Now, going underneath this, the next thing we want to do is get our main element. So let's come down a bit. Main. And we're going to position this as fixed. Top 0, left 0. And then we'll also just do a width of 100% and a height of 100 viewport heights. And then we also just want to say, actually that's it for the main element. So come underneath this, next we want to select is our board. And I'm going to position this absolute. So that's relative to the main element up here. And I'm going to position this, so from the top, we're going to have like a kind of, we're going to position it 10 pixels from each, from the top, left, bottom and right, okay? So say 10 pixels from the top, left, 10 pixels, bottom, 10 pixels, and right, 10 pixels. And then I'm just going to say overflow hidden here, okay? Because we don't want to be seeing our kind of memos. They don't want to overflow the board. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here as well, we'll just set a temporary border for now just so we can see the board. So let's just say 1 pixel solid, and I'll just say white. Okay, so you can see there's our kind of borders there, and you can see they're just 10 pixels from each edge of the screen. Okay, so now let's just add a memo actually, and just so we can style our memo, just so you can see what it looks like. So let's do that now. If we come to our board, I'm just going to add a div of a class of memo. So just come here, we'll say .memo. We're going to delete this later. This is just so we can see our styling as we go. Within this memo, we're going to have a move div, and this is going to contain a close. And then coming out of the move div, we're also going to have a div called Resize. Okay, so now if we come back to our CSS, and then I'm just going to say, we'll do memo, so .memo. And what I want to do actually is if we, okay, so I'll just say position, absolute, left, we'll say, I won't say left for now. We'll just do border. That's going to be 1 pixel solid, and we're going to use our CSS variable, and we're just going to use the border color, so that lime green, and then we're going to say background color, and again we're going to use our CSS variables again, and we're going to say memo BG color, and then let's set some temporary variables for now. So we'll just say top 10 pixels, left 10 pixels, say a width of, I don't know, 200 pixels and a height of 200 pixels. Okay, so there you can see that's what our kind of memo color is going to look like. So let's come underneath this. Next thing we're going to do is just get the move. So we'll say .move. This is going to have a position absolute, so relative to the memo div. And then we'll say top 0, left 0. We'll say a width of 100% to fill the div horizontally, the memo div horizontally. And then we'll have a height of, we'll say 16 pixels. And I'm going to say here, border bottom, and I'm just going to copy this. So 1 pixel solid, and we want that border color. And there you can see there's our kind of move div there. Right, so now I just want to also just say cursor grab as well. So say cursor grab. And this will show that when we hover, we get our hand appear, just to show that we can kind of move the div. Okay, so now underneath this, next we want to select close. And again, we're going to position this absolute. Remember, this close tag or div is within the move div. Okay, so it's within this div here. So we're going to position this absolute relative to the parent, which is the move div. And I'm going to say top 0, left 0, width, we'll say 16 pixels. And we'll give it a height of 100% of the move div. So that's only 16 pixels high. And then I'm just going to say border right. And again, I'm just going to copy or paste that border. And then I'm just going to give this a background color of black as well. You could put a cross in here, but just to save time, I'm not going to bother. Okay, so that's black. And then I just want to have a cursor of pointer. You can see now when we hover, we get the pointer. Cool, that's it for our close. So next, let's just select the resize. So we'll say .resize, and that's going to have, again, position absolute, bottom 0, right 0. So we're going to position this in the bottom right of our div. And then we're going to say, we'll give it a width of 10 pixels, a height of 10 pixels. We're going to say border top. And again, paste that in. And then we'll just do the same thing for border right, border left as well. Border left, paste. Okay, so there's our resize. And then I'm just going to set the cursor here. I want the cursor just to be a southeast resize. Okay, so now you can see we get that kind of resize indicator. Okay, so I think we're pretty much nearly there, guys. Next thing I want to do is just the selection. Okay, and what I also just should have mentioned in here, this will have a text area with a class of div, a class of text, sorry. Okay, so if you come back to our style.css, let's just do the text. So text, and that's going to have a position, absolute, and then we'll just say top, when it's 16 pixels from the top. Okay, so it just goes underneath the move div, and then I want to give it a width of 100%. That will fill the parent container, and then we'll say a height, and here we're going to use the CSS calc function. We're going to say 100%, but then we're going to subtract 16 pixels to account for this move space here. Okay, and then underneath this, we're just going to say a background color of transparent, like so. Okay, and then we'll say, what else do I want to do here? Resize, none, just so you know the user can't resize this text. And then also I just want to give this some, I don't think we've got any padding at the moment. Also let's just set the color as well. So color, and I want it to be the CSS variable, and we'll use the border color. Okay, and then I want to give it some padding. So say padding here of 5 pixels. Just give it a bit of white space. Also, I don't like this outline when we hover. We get this blue kind of outline. So just to get rid of that, we can just say outline none, and that removes that. And then I want the font size to be 18 pixels. Make it a bit larger, and then we're going to just apply that font as well. So I'm just going to say font family, and we'll just say pixel. Doesn't look like that's working for some reason. So we're saying font family pixel. What we need to do . Oh, okay, it's because we got the brackets there. We shouldn't have. Okay, that's better. That's looking more like the pixel font. Cool. Yeah, okay, and then that's it for our text. And I think that's the last thing we want to do is just our selection as well. So we say selection. This is the div that we use just to highlight, you know, the dimensions and the space of where we're going to place a memo. So here I'm just going to say position. This will be absolute. I'm going to give us a background color. And here I'm just going to use RGBA. We're going to have white, so 255, 255, 255. And then the alpha channel, I'm just going to say 0.372 to make it transparent slightly. And then pointer events, we set to none. Okay, this is very important because when we're moving our mouse, when we're sort of setting the size, we don't want the selection div to be getting in the way of our mouse move, or we want to read the mouse coordinates via the board. So we need point event set to none so the board can read where the mouse is. Okay, so that's pretty much it for our CSS. Okay, so that's what our div looks like. Looks pretty cool, I think. Nice and futuristic with that green kind of lime green border and stuff. Let's just go to our JavaScript now. So this is where the bulk of the code is. So I'm actually going to just comment this out because I don't need this. This was just for styling purposes. Okay, we're going to be adding these memos to the board with JavaScript. So I've just commented that out for now. If we come to our app.js, so the first thing we want to do in our app.js is just get some selectors. So we'll first select our board. So I'm going to say const board equals document dot query selector, and we just say dot board, and then I'm going to say const selection div equals document dot query selector, and I'm just going to say dot selection. Okay, and then I'm just going to initialize some kind of mouse coordinate variables. Okay, so this will just be used to we'll be setting. Well, these will constantly be changing. Okay, and they're going to be used for the creation of new memos, and they'll just store basic coordinates of where we're going to position our memos, the size, that kind of thing. So the first one we want to add really was going to say let offset x start. This will be the starting position on the x-axis. We'll do the same thing for the y. So I'll just say change the x to y. And then I want to do the same for the ends as well. Okay, so we'll just do a couple of these down, change start to end. Again, I'll set that to x, offset x end, and offset y end, like so. And then I also just want to add some current offsets as well. Okay, so current offsets, and these are used for the selection div, to style the selection div. So you'll see this shortly. So I'm just going to say let offset x current equals 0, let offset y current equals 0 as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do, let's just get the selection div functionality working first before we kind of initialize any memos. Okay, so in order to do that, the first thing we're going to do, let's just add some event listeners. Okay, some board event listeners. So we'll say here board.add event listener, and the first event we're listening out for is the mouse down event. Okay, so that's when the user performs an initial click on the mouse and holds it down. Okay, so we'll say that mouse down, and then we can say here offset x start equals e dot, and we're going to say offset x. Okay, that's a value we can take from the event, and we'll do the same for the offset y. So we'll say offset y, and we'll just say change that to y. So now if I console, if we just I'll show you this. If we console.log offset x start and offset y start. Okay, let's open up our console. And then basically if I click on the board, we'll now get the mouse coordinates. Okay, the offset means it will take the mouse coordinates from the target. Okay, so the very top left of the board, this will be 0, 0, or close enough, so I'm 2 pixels from the top and left. Okay, and you can see it gradually gets bigger as we click. Okay, so that's what that kind of that e.offset x is doing, and we're just applying those coordinates to these starting coordinates here. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to also add another event called mouse up. We'll say board.add event listener, we're listening for the mouse up event. Okay, so this is when the user releases the mouse. And then what we're going to say here is, let's just take this, we'll copy this, and then we can say offset x end, and that's going to equal e.offset x, and then we can say same for the y end as well. And then with this, what we can do is we can get so we have the starting coordinates and then we have the end coordinates, and we can use these coordinates to, work out the size of the memo we want to create. So what we can say here is, for example, let width equal, and what we need to do here, the calculation would be that we'll take the offset x end, and we just subtract the offset x start. And do the same for the height, but that's on the y-axis. We'll say let height equal offset x, offset y end minus offset y start. So now if we console.log on the mouse up event, width and the height, you should see now, if I've clicked down, we drag mouse up, that would be the width, so that would be 91 pixels, the height would be 51 pixels. You'll see here, for example, if I just do a massive, our width there that we dragged was 380 pixels, so this would be the kind of sizes we'd initialize our memos with. Okay, so that's all good. Next thing we want to do here is I just want to actually add some initial, some more tracking variables at the top. Okay, so we're going to have 3 tracking variables. So I'll say, let's just do a comment here, tracking variables. And then, so what we're going to track is first is we're going to say mouse clicked. So say let mouse clicked. That's going to equal false. Let moving memo equal false, and let resizing memo equal false. Okay, so what these variables are used for, basically, when we click on the board, we're going to set this variable to true. We can do that now actually. So on the mouse down event, we can just say mouse clicked equals true, and then when we mouse up, we can just say, we can put it back to false. Okay, and the reason we're doing this, we're setting the mouse click variable. It's used to determine if a user is clicking and holding the board to create a new memo. Okay, we're using that for future functions we're going to be using. The moving memo variable, that's just used to determine if a user is currently dragging a memo. We can reposition the memos on the screen, and basically if this is set to true, it will stop us being able to create new memos while we're repositioning another memo. And the same thing for resize, and it's the same kind of idea there as well. Okay, so now if we so if we come back here, so I'm going to say in our mouse down, in our mouse down event, I'm just going to say, let's just delete this console log, we don't need that. I'm going to do an if statement here. I'm going to say if not moving memo, so if we're not currently repositioning another memo, then I'm going to say, we're going to get our selection div, I'm going to say .style.top, that should be style.top, and that's going to equal, I'm going to do backticks here, and I'm just going to say offset y start pixels. Okay, don't forget to add the pixels. And then we'll do the same for the left, and that would just be offset x start. Okay, so what we're doing here is obviously we set our offset x and y start up here, and then we're just styling our selection div to be in that position. Okay, and then what we can do here is I'm just going to say board dot cursor dot style dot cursor, and that's going to equal a crosshair. Okay, so you should see now when we click, we get that crosshair appear. Right, that's good. And that's pretty much it for our mouse down event. So what I want to do now is we want to add a mouse move event as well. So let's just do that. We'll come underneath here, we'll say board.add event listener. We'll just say listen out for a mouse move. And then that takes in the event. Do a callback here. And then in the mouse move, we're going to say, we're going to start with an if statement. Okay, we'll say if the mouse is clicked, which it will be on the mouse down, we set that to true. And then we'll just say, and we're not currently moving a memo, and we are not resizing a memo. Okay, so if all of these three values are true, then we'll come into this if statement, and we're just going to say, we're going to use the current trackers next. Okay, so let's just do that now. We'll say offset x current, and that's going to equal, we'll take the e.offset x, so the event that's where the mouse currently is on the x-axis, and we're just going to subtract offset x start. Okay, so the starting position. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for the y. That would be offset y, and then offset y start. And then what we want to do here is we're just going to style our selection div. So we'll say selection div dot style dot width, and that's going to equal, we do template literals here again, and I'm just going to say offset x current, and add pixels, and then we'll just do the same thing for the height of the selection div as well. Say height, and I'm just going to say here offset y current. So now you can see we get our selection div appear. Okay, and then what I want to do as well is on the mouse up event, we just need to reset all of our kind of selection div styling. So I'm just going to say here, we'll come into the mouse up, and I'm going to say selection div dot style dot width equals, and I can just say 0 pixels here, and I'll do the same thing for the height. And then I'm just going to set our cursor, so I'll say board.style.cursor, and that's going to equal, we'll just set it back to the default cursor. So now you should see we get that selection area appear, okay? And that's going to be used to create our memos. So now that we have the selection div working, I think now would be a good time to just move on to our actual class implementation for our memos, okay? We need to create a class which is like a blueprint of how we're going to, it basically contains all of the instance methods and, you know, the setup methods for these memos. So let's just come under here. I'm going to create a class next called memo. And when we initiate a class, we just it needs a constructor. And each memo is going to take in 4 kind of parameters, okay? So the first one will be an ID. We're then going to have position, which will contain the top and left positions of the memo, the size, which will contain the width and the height of the memo, as well as the text content, we'll just say content for now. And then we can just say here, so when we initialize the memo, this.id will equal the ID that's passed in. This.position will equal the position that's passed in. This.size equals size, and this.content equals content. Okay, and then we're also just going to set a couple more variables here. Say this.moving equals false, and this.resizing equals false as well. And this is just going to be used to tell, based on when we're performing like these kind of mouse move events, we'll be able to tell which memos are currently selected to be moved or resized, okay, because we're going to adjust these with instance methods. And then on the, we can just do this now. Let's just do this.create memo. This is going to be a method we're going to create in a second. So let's do that now actually. We'll say create memo. Now the first thing we need to do is obviously get the main div element. We're going to create a new div and append it to the body or the board, sorry. So we'll just say this.div equals new, document dot create element, and we're going to create a new div element. Okay, and then we're going to say this.div.classList.add memo. So what we're effectively doing here is we're just creating a new version of this. So we're creating a new div of a class of memo, and then we're going to create these subsequent text areas, divs, and just append it to the board. We're just doing that with JavaScript now. Okay, so we add the class list of memo, and then we're going to just apply the styling. So we can say this.div.style .top. That's going to equal, we'll do backticks here, and then I'm going to say this.position, and that will be top, and then don't forget to add the pixels, and then we'll do the same for the left. Change that top to left, and then we'll also just do the sizes now. So we'll say this.div.style.height equals, and then we'll just do template this row again, this.size.width, height, sorry. And we'll do the same thing for the width. Cool. So then next one we'll do, so remember in our index we had this move div next, so let's do that now. So we'll just create a move div, say this.move. That's going to equal documents.createElement, and then we'll just say div, and then we'll say this.move .classList.add, and then we want to add the move class to this div. Okay, and then we're also just going to say this.addEventListener, because remember when we when we click down, so we're going to add event listener. This should be the move. Dot. We're going to add a mouse down event to the move div. And then what we're going to say there is this dot mouse down move dot bind this. Okay, so this is going to be a mouse down move method within this class, this memo class, and we have to bind the this keyword so it knows what instance of the class it's referring to. Okay, and then so after that I'm just going to say window dot add event listener. We're going to add an actual event listener to the whole window after this, and we're just going to say that's going to be a mouse up event, and here we're just going to say this dot mouse up dot bind this. Actually, I don't think I might delete this later. We'll see. And then I'm just going to say this dot div dot append child, and then we're just going to append this dot move. Okay, so we're appending this move div to this main div we've created. So now come underneath this, the next thing we need to do is the close div. So we'll say that now. So we'll say this dot close, same thing again, document dot create element and div. This dot close dot add class list, sorry, and then we can say dot add, and that's just going to be closed like so. And then we can say this dot move, so we're appending this to the move div dot append child, and then we can just say this dot close, and then also we just need to add an event listener to this, so we'll say this dot close dot add event listener, and we say click, and that's just going to delete a memo, so we'll have this dot delete memo, and then we just need to bind the this keyword again like so. And that minus should be equals, like so. Okay, so now next we need to do is create a text area. So I'm just going to say this.text equals document.createElement, and we're going to create a text area, like so. And then this.text.classList.add text, so just going to have a simple class called text. And then we'll say here as well, this.text.value is going to equal this.content. That's the content we pass in when we initialize our memo. And then underneath this, we're just going to say this.text .add event listener. And we'll listen up for a key up. Okay, so a key up event. And then this is just going to initialize a method called update text.bind this. Okay, and then underneath this, we're also going to add another event listener. So we'll say this.text.add event listener. And we'll listen here for a blur. Okay, and then what this is going to do is it will we're going to have a function called update local storage in the future. So I'll just comment this out for now because we're not implementing this yet. Okay, but yeah, we're going to have a global function called update local storage. Don't put parentheses there like that, because otherwise this will run when we initialize the function, and that can create some errors and bugs. Okay, so just use the actual function name, and that's it for now. So when we what the blur is when we click outside, when we unfocus the text area, it will then proceed to make any changes if it identifies that the text has changed. Okay, so I'll just comment that out for now. And then we also want to say, so we want to append this to the div, so say this.div .append child this.text, like so. And okay, so that's it, we're nearly there. Next thing we need to do is just to resize div. Okay, so we'll say, that should be div. So we say this.resize equals documents.createElement div this.resize.classList.add resize, like so. And then we're just going to add a mouse down to this. So this.add event listener, this.resize, sorry, .add event listener. It's not for a mouse down event. And we're basically just going to say this.mouse down resize .bind this. And then finally, we just append this to the div. So this.div.append child, this.resize. And that's pretty much it. Now all we need to do is just add this main div to the board. So we'll say board.append child this.div, like so. Okay, so there's quite a lot there. Let's just sit and try this out. I'll just say like new memo. Again, takes in an ID. So just to get a unique ID now, I'm just going to do date.now. Okay, just show what date.now does. It just gives you the amount of milliseconds. I think it's from the 1st of January 1970. It gives you the amount of milliseconds that have gone by. So this is always updating. So it's always going to be unique. So I'll just use this for now. If you wanted the unique, there are some libraries which can create unique IDs, but I'll just use this for now just to save time. And then the next is the position. So this takes in an object, and that's going to be, remember, when we create our div, the position takes in a top and a left. So we'll do that. So we'll just say top. I don't know, I'll just say 10 for now, like so. And then for the left, I'll just say 10 as well. And then the next parameter is the size. That takes in a width. So I'll just say 100 and a height of 100. And finally, text content, we can just, I don't know, just say hello. Okay, we're going to get an error now because we have some functions here or methods which we haven't created yet. So let's just do that now actually. So the first one is mouse down move. Let's do that for now. So basically when we click on the move div on our memo, we're going to initialize this function, this mouse down move. So we come onto here, mouse down move. That takes in the event. And what we're going to do here is we're going to set the global moving memo variable to true, because we're currently going, if we're clicking down on the mouse down, we want to tell the global scope that we're moving a memo. So we don't, we set this up here. This is like tracking when we're moving memos or not. So that's that done. And then we're just going to say, we're going to set an instance variable called this.moving equals true. Okay. And then that'll be used so that this will allow us to then move the div around on the board. And then I'm going to say this.move.style.cursor. We're going to make that equal grabbing. So when we click down on this, it's going to close the kind of fist cursor icon. So it looks like we're actually grabbing it, and we can it signalizes that we can actually move the memo. And then this.move.style.background color is going to equal, we're going to just use like a kind of lighter shade of green. So it's going to be BBF 70655. And that should be BBF, not VV. Okay. So what we need to do here, you'll see why we're doing this shortly. I'm just going to set two more instance variables. We're going to say this.moving x dist equals, and we're going to say e.client x minus this.position.left. We're going to do the same thing for the y-axis. So this.moving y dist equals e.client y minus this.position, and this has got to be top. Okay, and that's it for our mouse down memo, mouse down move function. Okay, so what these two variables are used to do, they're used to determine where the grab cursor is relative to the actual memo div. So yeah, you'll see what I mean shortly when we come to it. Okay, let's just move on to the next function for now. So the next one is mouse up. So let's just actually let's do the mouse down resize as well. Might as well. Let's do that under here. So do mouse down resize. And this is really straightforward. All we're doing with this is just saying this dot resizing equals true, and we're just going to set that resizing memo equals true as well, that global variable. Okay, so next thing we want to do here is let's do the delete memo. No, we'll do the move. Let's do the update text. Let's do the update text next. So update text. Okay, this is fairly straightforward as well. All we're saying here is this dot content equals this dot text dot value, like so. Okay, so whatever text we type in the text box, it will update. So what you remember when we what we're doing here, whenever we do a key up event on the text area, it will basically update the text. So the instance, so this dot content, the content will be updated to the text that's written on the key up event in the text area. Okay, and then delete memo. Let's do that next. So delete memo. And then what we're going to say here is, which want to do this dot div dot remove, like so. Okay, so what else are we missing here? We also just want to do the mouse up. Let's do that. So mouse down, mouse up. Do that here. Okay, well you can see now that our divs appeared, so I mean we can change this if we wanted to make this 100. You can see that's changing now. So when we initialize a new class, we're getting the kind of, if we had the content, for example, like hello world, you'll see that gets reflected there. Okay, cool. So now what we need to do is, that should be background. Now you can see when we click on that, we get the grabbing fist and the background changes. Okay, so now on mouse up, let's do that function next. So in this function, we're going to say, actually, let's remove this for now. Before we go any further with this, I just want to make it initialize a memo when we kind of drag on the screen. So let's come up to our event listeners at the top, our board event listeners, to the mouse up, this one here. So we have our width here. And basically, I don't want to create any memos if they're if our drag position is not as big as 50, if our width is not 50 pixels or greater than 50 pixels and our height's not greater than 50 pixels. So let's do that now. We'll say if width is greater than or equal to 50, and we'll just say and height is greater than or equal to 50 as well. We also need to do some other things here. We need to say and if we're not currently moving a memo. So the exclamation mark will mean that that's false. Okay, so if we're not moving that, and if we are not resizing a memo, then what we want to do here is we're going to create a new memo. So we'll say here, let memo equal new memo. Okay, and the ID, we're just going to use that date.now. Okay, and then for the position, we're just going to set the left, and that's going to be the offset X start that we had. And then the top is going to be offset Y start. Okay, and then the width is going to just be the width that we create here. So we'll just pass in width and height. And then we'll just have it blank on initialization. So we'll say no content on init. Okay. So now if we create a div, okay, that doesn't look like. So it looks like they're it's not doing the right dimensions. So let's see what's going on there. So we're saying there, let's just let's see what's going on. Okay, so it looks like this.size.width. Can't understand why the sizing isn't right there. Width and height. Again, we didn't have pixels here. Silly me. Okay, that's better. Now you can see it's working properly. We get in the when we drag into the position, we're getting the memos applied in the correct position and size. Okay, always remember the pixels. I forget that quite a lot, and it's always throws an error. Okay, so that's all good. Now what we want to do is I'm just going to come up to the top again, and I'm just going to create a memo list array next. So say let memo list equal an empty array. Okay, and this is going to just be used to store all of our current memos. So now once we've initialized the memo, what I want to do here is I'm just going to push this. We'll say memo list. Go underneath here, and we'll say memo list dot push memo. Okay, so if we add these memos, you can see our memos get added. Okay, and they just store all the individual kind of sizes, that kind of stuff. Now, coming back into our memo class, so we have the mouse down move function, we have the mouse down resize. Let's just go into this mouse up next. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to get a current position for this. Okay, so say const current position equals, and I'm going to say left this dot position dot left, and top is this dot position dot top. Actually, we could just do this dot position. Let's just do that. This dot position. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. And then what we want to do here is I'm just going to say object dot freeze current position. Okay, the reason we're doing that is because we're going to be changing this on this mouse up, this position, and we need to freeze this just so we can make comparisons from the old position to the new position. Okay, and then if there are changes identified, then we can update our list and local storage where we're going to be storing these memos. I'm going to do the same thing for size, so we'll say const current size equals this dot size, and then I'm just going to say object dot freeze, and I'm just going to say current size, like so. And then on mouse up, we want to set moving memo to false, the global variable, and then resizing memo to false, obviously, as well. Okay, and then what we want to do under this is we're also going to say this dot moving equals false, and this dot resizing equals false as well. Okay, and then I'm going to say, so if we this dot want to just change the cursor on our move div, so say this dot move dot style dot cursor, that's going to equal the grab, just normal grab, not the grabbing. And then we'll say this dot move dot style dot background color, that's going to be equals to transparent. Okay, so now you can see it goes back. So that's great. And then what we want to do now is we're just going to say this dot position dot top equals this dot div dot offset top. Okay, that gets the top position of the div, and then this dot position dot left equals this dot div dot offset left. Okay, so we're changing the position once we've got the mouse up. Okay, and then so we've got the current or the old position, and now we've got the new position, and that should be left. And then we just need to do a few more calculations here. So we need to adjust the memo position if dragged out of board bounds. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to do, I'm going to say, do an if statement here. We'll say if this dot position dot top is less than 0, so that means it's beyond the top of the board, then we're going to say this dot position dot top equals 0. We're going to set it to 0, and we're going to say this dot div dot style dot top equals 0 pixels, like so. Okay, so now if I drag this up, oh, we can't drag it yet, sorry, we'll do that later. And then come underneath this, we need to account for the bottom of the screen now. So to do that, or the bottom of the board, we're going to just say let board height, that's going to equal board, and we're going to use the get bounding client rect, and then we can just say dot bottom. That will get the bottom in pixels. And then we can say here, if this dot position dot top plus this dot size dot height, remember we need to take the height of the board into consideration because this is the top and then this is the bottom, so we need to see if this is going beyond, this bottom is going beyond the bottom of our board, so that's why we're adding this dot size dot height. If that is greater than the board height, then we're going to say this dot position dot top is equal, and we're going to use the board height, and we're going to just subtract, we're going to say this dot size dot height, and we'll just add 10 pixels as well. And then we also just need to say this dot div dot style dot top, and now we can use that position. So we'll say template literals backticks, and then we can just say this dot position dot top because we just set it here, and then don't forget to add the pixels. Okay, let's do the same thing for the left hand side of the board now. So we can say if this dot position dot left is less than 0, then this dot position dot left equals 0, and this dot div dot style dot left equals 0 pixels. Change that to div. Okay, and then finally we just need to do it for the board right. So we'll say to do that we need to get the right of the board. So we can say we'll just say board right equals board. Use the get bounding client rect again, and then just dot right. Okay, and then we can say here if this dot position dot left, and then we need to add this dot size dot width this time. If that's greater than board right, then we can say this dot position dot left equals board right minus, and then we can say this dot size dot width plus 10. And I'm just adding the 10 pixels here because when we have this 10 pixel kind of spacing, okay, so that's why I'm using that. And then we can say this dot div dot style dot left equals backticks this dot position dot left pixels. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add some global event listeners after this. So we'll just say global event listeners. So I'm going to say window.add event listener. I want to listen up for a mouse move event. And here I'm going to loop through our list of our memo list. Okay, so I'll say for let I equal 0, whilst I is less than memo list dot length, then I++, and then I'm going to say if we need to check if the moving variable has been set to true. Okay, so remember when we click on mouse down move, this dot moving is set to true. Okay, so I'm going to say if memo list I dot moving, then I'm going to say memo list I I'm going to create a method called move memo. I'll type. Okay, and then remember to pass in the event. And we'll do the same thing for resizing as well. So I'll say if memo list I dot resizing. Because remember we set the same thing here as well. We set this dot resizing to true when we click on the mouse down resize or the resize div. Then we'll say memo list I dot resize memo, which we need to create, and just pass in the event. Okay, so let's create those now. So let's create the move memo method first. Okay, so the move memo, I'll just I'll do it under the mouse down move. We'll just say move memo. Takes in the event, and here I'm just going to say this dot div dot style dot top equals, and we're going to do a template literal here. We'll say e dot client y, so that's the current position on the y-axis of the mouse, and then we're going to subtract this dot moving y dist, okay, which we created earlier, and then we need to do the same thing for the left, and that's on the x-axis. Say client x, and that should be moving x dist. Okay, and then so I just want to add the resize memo as well. Actually, let's just see that this is working. So now you can see that's moving fine. Okay, and the reason we kind of added this this moving x and y dist is to account for that kind of spacing, the distance between the cursor and the left of the move div. That's why we're doing that. It's basically so we can account for that kind of difference. That's what those distance variables are doing there. Okay, let's do the resize memo now as well. So we'll come under here and I'll just say resize memo under here. Again, takes in the E, the event. And here I'm just going to say let height equal, we're saying e.client y to get the current mouse coordinates, minus this dot position dot top. Okay, and then I'm going to say let width equal e.client x minus this dot position dot left, and then we want to limit the size to a minimum of 50 pixels by 50 pixels. Okay, don't want any memo smaller than that, so I'm just going to say here if the width is greater than or equal to 50 and the height is greater than or equal to 50, then we can just say this dot, we need to set the size for future re-renders. Okay, so we'll just say this dot size dot height equals height, this dot size dot width equals width, and then we need to change the div style as well. So we'll say this dot div dot style dot height equals, and then we can just do template literal and pass in that height, and then add the pics. Same thing for the .width. And just change that to width. Okay. 160, unexpected token. That should be and. Okay. So now, can we resize? Okay, cannot assign read-only property top of object. Okay, let's have a look. Alright, why is that happening? Cannot assign read-only property top. It's not read-only. Okay. Right, bear with me a second here, guys. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what this is all about. I have a feeling it may be something to do with that. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, that's working now. What I might need to do here actually is I'm just going to, because I'm freezing. Yeah, okay. I know what I'm doing here. So this needs to be changed. So I'm just going to create a brand new object and say left. I'm just going to say this dot position dot left, and then we'll say top this dot position dot top, and then we can freeze this. And then we'll do the same for the size. That needs to be a new object. Just say width this dot size dot width, and then height this dot size dot height, like so. We freeze that, and now, yeah, we don't get that error anymore. Cool. Okay, so that's looking good. We can resize now. Great. Okay, cool. So now let's I just want to implement some local storage functionality next. Okay, so to do that, let's go to the top here, and we'll just do local storage. Okay, so I'm just going to say let local storage memos equal JSON.parse. So we need to, obviously we store our memos in string format, so we need to parse this out. So that's going to equal JSON.parse. And I'm going to say local storage dot get item memos, or we'll just say an empty array if there's nothing there. And then, so whenever we load our page, we need to just initialize these memos. So I'm just going to say, we'll do above this, above the event listeners. Local storage memos. Let's check that some memos, that'll bug me. Okay, local storage memos. So this is when our page loads. And then we can just cycle through these with a for each function. So I'll just say for each memo. So we pass in a memo, and then I'm just going to say let stored memo equal new memo. So we're going to initialize new instances when we load our page. The ID will be memo.id. The position, say left, that will be memo.position.left. And right, top, sorry, memo.position.top. And then we can say for the size, so the width, that will be memo.size.width. And for the height will be memo.size.height, like so. And then the content will be the memo.content that's stored. Okay, and then we just need to push these to the memo list when we initialize our page. Stored memo. Okay, cool. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, these are kind of being stored now. That's great. Well, I'm not sure what's going on there. We'll find out in a minute. Let's see, memo list. Looks like we've got 4 memos at the moment. Okay, so what I need to do is we need to just update our delete function next. So our delete memo, if we come back in, where's our delete memo? Here. So what we're saying here, what we need to do now is I'm going to say memo list equals memo list, but this time we're going to filter. We're going to use the filter function, and here we can pass in the memo, and then we can basically just say return. We're going to say memo.id is not equal to this.id, and that will just basically go through the memo list, and it will remove the memo where the ID corresponds to the ID of the memo we've closed. Okay, so we'll remove that from the list, and then okay, that's great. And then now what we need to do is just create a function called update local storage. Okay, so I'm going to do that down here. We'll say do function update local storage, and then this function we're just going to say, just do a check first. We'll say if local storage dot get item memos is not equal to JSON dot stringify. We're going to stringify the memo list. Okay, so if they're not equal to each other, that means there's been an update. I'm just going to say local storage dot set item memos, and then we're just going to say set that to JSON.stringify that memo list. Okay, and then we can just console.log and local storage updated. Okay, so now when that's deleted, let's just go up when I did the delete memo, update local storage there. We also need to do this when we initialize a new memo, so I'm just going to say underneath this push we can also just do that update local storage like so. Where else do we want this? I also want to, yeah, let's go to our mouse up. Yeah, so basically when we change here, I'm just going to say, I'm going to do an if statement here. I'm going to say if JSON dot stringify this dot position, if that's not equal to JSON dot stringify current position. Okay, so remember we create this current position here and we froze it, so we're comparing the two positions, and we have to stringify these because you can't compare two objects directly, so we're stringifying it. There is a safer way, but I'm just using the stringify method now just to make it quicker. And then we can do the same thing for the size as well. I can just say under here, or JSON.stringify this.size is not equal to JSON.stringify current size. Then what we're going to do here is just say update local storage, like so. Okay, so, and then, so we've updated local storage there, delete memo, resize memo as well. When we resize a memo, we want to update local storage. Let's do that. Okay, let's see what's going on. Is this working? Let's just delete our local storage for now. So if we go to application, okay, you can see our memo list is empty. So now you can see it's headed to local storage. If we refresh, that's persisting now. Great. Now if we press hello, okay, so what we need to do is I'm just going to uncomment this piece of code here. So when we blur, we want to update local storage as well when we remove, okay? So I'm saving that. Now if I type in hello here, come out, so that's been blurred, refresh, you can see the text is saved now. Cool. Okay. Delete that, and cool. Our local storage is working. Okay, that's all good. So now that that's done, that's our main application working. Let's just make it look a bit nicer now. So I'm going to go into I'm going to create a separate JavaScript file here. Let's just call this canvas.js. And I'm just going to get that kind of dotted background because I think that looks quite cool. Okay. So to do that, I'm just going to get the canvas up here. So say const canvas equals document dot query selector canvas, and then underneath this I'm going to say get the context. So say const ctx equals canvas dot get context 2D. Like so, and then I'm going to say const dpr. This is the device pixel ratio. I'm going to set that to window.device pixel ratio, or just 1. And we're using this because this is setting the correct resolution for the screen you're on. Because this the resolution can sometimes look a bit blurry if this isn't applied on like MacBooks, for example, on the Retina display. And then going to scale. The context to the DPR, the device pixel ratio, and then I'm just going to create some initial variables, say let width and let height, which we're going to set in a second. We're then going to create a function called set dimensions, and this is first thing we're going to do in here is just going to take the canvas. We're going to say dot width, and we're going to just say that equals the width. We're going to apply it. So we're going to set this width to be the same as the canvas.width. and we're going to set that to be equal to canvas.getBoundingClientRect dot width times the device pixel ratio. Do the same thing for the height. Okay, and then underneath this, I just want to then just style the canvas. So we'll just say, let's just close this down. Just say canvas.style .width equals, and I'm just going to do a backtick here, and then we're just going to say calc 100% minus 20 pixels. I'll do the same thing for the width to the height as well. And then we're just going to create a function called drawGrid. So I'll just we'll set that off in this set dimensions function. So now if we just do function drawGrid, we're going to set this context fill style to be transparent when we begin. Okay, so it equals transparent like so, and then we're just going to fill the canvas for just because when we resize the page, we just want to reset the canvas. Okay, so just say fill rect. We'll start off at the 0 top left position, fill the width and the height like so. And then I'm just going to say, after this, we'll say ctx.fill style. We'll set this to like a kind of see-through green color. So BBF 70629. And then after this, we're just going to do a for loop to just set up our kind of dots in the background. So I'm going to say for, and here we'll just say let x equal, and then we're going to take the width and divide that by 100, and then we're going to come out of the brackets and divide that by 2. And then we're just going to say, whilst x is less than or equal to the width of the canvas, we're just going to say x plus equals, we're going to use the math.ceil function just to round the number down, and then we're just going to say width divided by 100, because we want 100 circles on the x-axis. We're going to do a nested for loop here, and we're just going to say let y equals, we're just going to say height divided by 100, then we're going to divide that by 2 again, then we're going to say whilst I is less than or equal to the height of the canvas, we're going to say y plus equals, and then we're just going to say again math.ceil, and then we're just going to take the height divided by 100. Okay, and then after this we can just start drawing our circles. So we can say ctx.beginPath, and then I'm going to say here ctx.arc to create a circle that takes in the x and the y like so, and then also the radius. So I'm just going to set it to 1 pixel, just a really small circle. Start angle can be 0, end angle will be math.pi times 2 to create a circle, and then we'll just set that last parameter to false, doesn't matter. Then we just do ctx.fill to fill the circle with color, and then finally ctx.close path. Okay, and then so coming out of this, let's just call that set dimensions. You can see our circles have appeared. Okay, and then what I want to do now is I'm just going to say window.addEventListener. I'll listen up for a resize event, and then I'm just going to set that dimensions. Okay, so now we get our cool background. What I also want to do, I just want to position this with CSS as well. So if you come into our CSS, I'm just going to select the canvas element, and I'm just going to say position absolute, top 10 pixels, left 10 pixels, and I'm just going to say width equals calc 100% minus 20 pix. Same for the height, and I just want to put this in the background, so just say z index of -1. Okay, and then let's just remove that white border from our board. Don't want that anymore. And there you go. So I think that's looking quite cool now. And there's our note board. Okay, so I just want to see if I can fix that, because that's quite annoying. So if we come back to our app.js, I also just want to say here, if in the mouse move e.client x is less than 0, or e.offset y is less than 0, or e.offset x is greater than let's just do board get bounding client rect dot height, no, dot bottom, sorry. Let's just put this down just so we can read it a bit better. I think this will work. So basically, if our cursor goes beyond the board, then I'm just going to say memo list I dot mouse up. We'll put that in this for loop. So now I won't do that, it's a bit. What we could do there actually is just say set the mouse click to false. That should stop it. Okay, yeah, I mean, play around with it, guys. I'm not going to try and fix this now. It looks like it's kind of working. That's the kind of route you want to go down. But yeah, that's how we kind of create this cool noteboard. So yeah, obviously saves to local storage. I think it's quite a cool project, really. Yeah, you can always refresh now. And yeah, it's just cool little place to store your notes. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it was quite a long one. But yeah, see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.